Well, good evening and welcome. This is the meeting of the Special Education Advisory Committee of the Halton District School Board for Tuesday, September the 14th, 2021, our first meeting of the new school year. Welcome back, everyone. Given the need to practice social distancing due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we are holding this meeting remotely through a video conference. This meeting is being recorded. In accordance with Ontario Regulation 463-97, and the guidelines effective February the 1st, 2021, any meeting of the Board of Trustees and/or committee meetings which are open to the public must be live streamed and be able to take questions from the public. The purpose of this is to foster two-way participation during the meetings. To comply with this, SEAC will be using a Google form which is attached to each agenda, distributed in advance of the meetings and posted on the HDSB SEAC website page. Questions posed during the live streamed meetings of SEAC may be answered during that meeting, particularly those related to agenda items, or at the following meeting at the discretion of the chair. For efficiency, multiple questions received that are similar in nature may be grouped together at the discretion of the chair and/or the vice chair. Questions will not be attributed. Notation will be made that multiple people ask the same question. Any questions that contain language that is hateful or discriminatory will not be considered. And at this time, I'd like to hand over to my Vice Chair, Lucille, to start with a roll call to record who's in attendance. As Lou calls your name, please could you answer yes or present?
Tracy, I'll start with the trustees. Tracy?
Hello, everyone. Yes, and present.
Heather?
Joining us shortly.
Okay.
Joanna?
Good evening, everyone.
Margot?
Margot sends her regrets.
Okay. The Association for Bright Children? Yalen?
Good evening, and I'm here.
Jen?
Good evening, present.
Autism Ontario, Lisa.
I can see Lisa's here. Lisa, is your mic working? Perhaps we'll come back and check at the end.
Okay. Community Living Burlington, Candace.
Here, thank you.
Easter Seals, Melissa.
Here. Hi.
Sarah.
Sarah cannot attend tonight, with regret.
Okay. Halton Down Syndrome Association, Sophia.
She's hoping to join.
Rebecca.
Present.
The Learning Disabilities Association of Halton Hamilton, Alison and Diane.
I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Okay. Members at large, I've seen James. James.
Here.
Diane Miller.
Not present.
And myself.
Okay, great.
And then the members of staff. Colette.
I'm here. Good evening.
Lorna.
I'm here.
Sean.
Good evening. I'm here.
And I'm not aware of what other staff members are here.
So I think our other staff members are here as guests, so I'm sure that can be added. Lorna can add them into as attendance. That's great. So just one quick question then, is Lisa Cameron present? If you're present and your mic's not working, do you want to put it in the chat and we'll record you as present?
Good evening, I'm present.
Okay, great. Good to have you here, Lisa. Thank you. Okay, so now that we've done our roll call, I would like to start our meeting by taking the time to honor the land.
Just letting you know.
Sorry? Hello? Okay.
Just letting you know, Trustee Gertz, I'm popping in and out
Oh,
for the
great.
next 20 minutes, so and then I'll be back full time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start by honoring the land. Halton, as we know it today, is rich in history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis. From the Anishinaabe to the Atawonderan, the Haudenosaunee and the Métis, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather today on these lands, on these treaty lands, we have the responsibility to honor and respect the four directions: land, waters, plants, animals, ancestors that walked before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for sharing their traditional territory with us. So moving on, we would first like to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting that was sent through. Are there any modifications or amendments that need to be made to the agenda at this time? Okay, Lucille, do you want to call for motioners, seconders?
I'll second.
Okay, so Lucille, I think you're muted, but
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, I propose it, and James is seconding.
Does anybody have any abstentions or any opposition to the agenda as it stands? Okay, not hearing any, the agenda is moved. Okay, and we have also sent out the June 1st meeting minutes. I'd like to ask if there are any errors or omissions that anyone would like to bring to our attention. Again, okay, not seeing anything. Lou, would you like to call?
Yes, I'd like to call a motion to approve the minutes of, I think it was June
1st.
June 1st.
I'll approve.
Thank you, Diane.
Speaking, I'll approve.
Anybody to second? I'll second. Okay, and any abstentions or objections to the minutes as they stand? No, none being recorded, then those minutes are approved. So let's move on. Okay, so tonight, I'm just looking at our guest list. I'm not sure if our guest has arrived yet, Colette. No, okay. So we do have a guest joining us a little bit later on, but before we do that, we are going to move on to our action items. The first one, item number 2.1, is a presentation on a structured reading from our structured reading itinerant teachers. So I'd like to welcome the team to present some of the interesting work that they've been doing on supporting readers who are struggling. So very welcome to, I believe that Sherry Rain is going to be kicking off or part of the team. So take it away.
Martine, are you presenting slides?
For you, anything.
Oh,
It's just getting there.
So I'm going to jump in just at the beginning here as I get the honors of introducing the team. For those that were with SEAC last year, you'll remember we brought this project forward. It's a new intervention for reading that we were very excited about. We were hoping to present last June, but other things became at the forefront. So we decided to wait till September, and thanks for having us. I get to introduce the team. We have, as you see, a number of itinerants that are listed. If Martine, you want to fast forward, there we go. We have Jason Adams, Sandy Bayless, Linda Danahy, Martine Forneville, Rebecca Ganaville, and Darren Spokes. Those are our itinerant reading teachers that are going into the schools, into the classes, working with students. And Sandra Hall is the instructional program leader who is overseeing the program this year. But many of you know our illustrious and retired leader, Sherry Rain, and she was instrumental in spearheading this program and in providing a tremendous amount of knowledge and expertise and enthusiasm to get it up and running. So much of what you're going to see in terms of the data tonight and the information is part of her time with us. And so I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to hand it over to Sherry right now to give us the background and welcome her back to another SEAC event. Nice to see you again, Sherry.
Yeah, great to see you too. Okay, so there was a concern that some students in self-contained LD classrooms were unable to decode words without the use of assistive technology. Meanwhile, scientific research into reading was really coming into the forefront, allowing us to teach decoding through the cognitive neuroscience of reading. And it's this science that the reading project was based upon. Keeping in mind that the science of reading is not yet in the Ontario curriculum, introducing this in an alternative setting such as self-contained LD is a good place to start. Basically, this question is, what is the cognitive neuroscience of reading? Scientists use functional MRI to discover which areas of the brain good readers use, and they use diffusion tensor imaging to see the neural circuits between those areas. However, those areas of the brain and the circuits joining them are not activated in weak readers. So basically the left fusiform gyrus, sort of like it's in your brain, but like kind of behind your ear on your left side, detects incoming letters in strings, such as pan, P-A-N, dem, D-E-M, ick, I-C, pandemic. It sees the letters. The left supramarginal gyrus, up higher than that, detects each sound called a phoneme that the letters make. And the left inferior frontal gyrus towards the front of the brain processes and pronounces the sounds. And the arcuate fasciculus is like fibers, the neural circuit that connects those areas. In this reading project, we used strategies to activate those areas of the students' brains, as well as activating the connecting circuits so that students could learn how to read. And next slide, thank you. 5 itinerant reading teachers last year were given intensive training in phonemic awareness, as that must be consolidated in order for weak readers to learn how to read. And it's not easy for adults, teachers, to learn this just by picking up a book. It takes quite intensive training because so much can go wrong with these students. I'll give you an example. I want you to take a moment, count how many sounds there are in the word tax, like income tax, just the word tax. What I mean by sounds is, let's say I asked you to do dog, you would say there's 3, duh, ah, guh. So just take a moment, figure out how many are there in tax. Most people think that tax has 3 sounds, but it doesn't. It actually has 4. When we say sounds, you look at how many times your mouth moves. So you have a, k, s. So you have 4, t, a, k, s. And if you say tax, but you change the k to p, you get taps. It's this detection and manipulation of each sound, each phoneme, that weak readers need to activate and master in order to learn how to read. So training was given there. It was also given in the rules of our decoding system of English. We used tools for reading, which these cards, Equip for Reading Success, and the Wilson Reading System. I chose those as our teaching materials for the students. And as the project went on, we met regularly to troubleshoot problems, including with students who were not progressing as expected, generally due to either multiple exceptionalities, really severe language deficits, or mental health obstacles. How the brain reads and the strategies that we used are currently available to all the self-contained LD teachers in a handbook. And that's it for my part now. And then I think I'm passing this on to someone else.
All right, that would be me that is taking over. Thanks, Sherry. Good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for your time and attention with this. My name is Jason Adams. I'm one of the itinerant resource teachers, and I will be the favorite of everyone in this meeting because I have to ask for a guinea pig from the audience for a short experiment. I promise I'm not going to publish the results or embarrass you or criticize you in any way. I just need some audience participation. Do I have a volunteer? Sherry, you're not allowed. Sorry. All right, I see Allison, although did I hear earlier that's not your...
Oh, no, that is my name. I changed it.
Oh, sorry. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Allison,
great.
thank you. Okay, so Allison, here's what's going to happen. And for everybody watching and listening, we believe strongly in authentic learning experiences, and we want to give you an idea of what some of our reading research looks like in real life, and in some ways where the mystery of students who struggle to read started to get solved, for want of a better term. So we're going to give you a little bit of research in action here. So Allison, what's going to happen is this. In a second, I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, go. When I say go, a slide with some words on it is going to pop up. Okay. All I need you to do is read those words out loud as fast as you can. They're words in English. There's no secret trick or anything, but I just read them left to right, up and down like you normally would, but just read them as fast as you possibly can. And I will let you know your results shortly after that. Are you ready?
I am.
3, 2, 1, go.
Desk lamp, windshield wipers, cheater, container, staple remover, spatula, remote, chest of drawers, scale, glove compartment.
That was fantastic. You know, when we practiced this, Martine, I forget who did it. I think it was Linda, but she, your time there was 6 seconds. And I believe when we practiced this as a team, it was 7 seconds. So Allison, well done. I want you to just hold on to those results. We are going to come back to this, but just keep in mind for now that I got you to read a list strictly of words.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting us tonight, and thanks, Jason. So for the next portion of the presentation, I'm going to go into further details about the students that we supported, as well as some of the processes involved with the interventions. So first of all, who are our students? Well, the students that we are working with have one or more diagnosed learning disabilities and exceptionalities. They have been formally identified through the IPRC process and have placements in 14 different SELD classes, including the virtual SELD classes, which we had last year. The students are in grades 4 through 8, and we targeted them based on our intensive profile development. Go to the next slide. Thank you. So student profiles were a key component of the initiative so that we could have a thorough understanding of learning profiles. Our team conducted comprehensive information gathering from a variety of sources, including OSR reviews, psychological assessments, speech and language reports, individual education plans, and any other relevant reports and documents. We also reviewed histories of interventions and collected teacher anecdotal information. So moving on to the data collection, once we had a thorough picture of our learners, we began the data collection process by conducting a variety of pre-assessments and surveys. This same information was then used for our post-assessment data, which Martine will delve into further in the presentation. The assessment tools we used included Dr. David Kilpatrick's Phonological Awareness Screening Test, also referred to as the PAST, which is the one book that Sherry shared earlier. We also used the Wilson Assessment of Decoding and Encoding, which we also know as the WADE. And we also had students read different levels of decodable text and conducted student attitudinal surveys, as well as obtained parent feedback. Once we had the pre-assessment data collected, we moved into the intervention part of the initiative. So I'll just give everyone a moment to have a look at the image in this slide. The reason we selected this image is because I think it sums up one of the very distinguishing factors of our intervention, which is that this is not a one-size-fits-all program. Rather, the work we're doing is student-driven, individualized, direct instruction based on learning profiles, pre-testing data, and continuous monitoring, and utilizes a variety of strategies and resources to support student need. So the components of our intervention can be broken down into 4 main areas: student goals, delivery model, focus of instruction, and capacity building. The individual student goals were connected to IEPs and were primarily based on student profiles and pre-assessment data. The instruction was delivered in 3 ways: in person, virtually, or a combination of both, which we refer to as the hybrid model. The in-person instruction took place in bricks and mortar classrooms. Virtual instruction was provided to those students who attended the virtual schools, as well as to all the students during school closures. The hybrid model involved teachers working virtually with students while they were attending bricks and mortar schools. The benefit to this was this enabled our team to cross-group students based on needs rather than being limited by geographic locations. The main areas of instruction that we focused on were place and manner of articulation, which Sherry was demonstrating earlier, phonemic awareness, and decoding through the use of resources such as the Wilson Reading System. The final component of our intervention involved capacity building with the SCLD teachers. Capacity building varied from teacher to teacher depending on their comfort levels and included a variety of options such as consultation, problem solving, modeling lessons and strategies, lesson planning, and co-teaching, and finally developing resources to support students with various needs. So now I'm going to hand it over to Martine to discuss the results of our pre and post-assessment data in further detail, which is very exciting.
Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit more in depth about what Rebecca was talking about. She was sharing about our kids in the assessments. So about 50% of our caseload last year were students in grade 4 and 5. About a third of them were in grade 6, and then the remainder, 17-ish%, were in grade 7 and 8. When we started off this project, we were looking at approximately 106 students. About 25 of those were taken off right off the bat, as they had needs that didn't fit with what this program was offering. They were students that had LDs in math, that had LDs in comprehension, and their needs weren't going to be met by this specific program. So our magic number ended up being about 81 for our data, our caseload. The data I'm sharing with you today for the end of the year is for 73 students. We had a few students move and others were COVID-related absences, so we don't have final year data for them. So the first piece of data I'm going to share with you has to do with one of our pre and post assessments called the Phonological Awareness Screening Test, or the PAST. What is it? It is an assessment that we use to look at phonological awareness. Phonological awareness skills include the ability to say words and take out parts of them. It includes being able to blend pieces of words together. It includes segmenting words, so dividing up words into phonemes or sounds, all the way up to a substitution level. So let me just flip here. It connects right to one of the first components of our program, the phonological awareness instruction that we give prior to starting any of the decoding instruction. So let me just explain what this graph is. So each one of these bars represents one of our students. The height of the bar represents what level they were when they began, when we assessed them in late November. The maximum score that you can get on this assessment is 20. The reason you see nothing in some of these spots is because that student essentially scored a 0. The 0 actually means a level D. That doesn't mean A, B, C, D, like what we think of as school marks or level 1, 2, 3, 4. Level D is the first level that we use in Kilpatrick's past. And just so you know, a level D is a syllable, and it would be something like, say sunset, and then the student would go sunset. Now say sunset, but don't say sun. And the student would need to be able to manipulate that in their head and go sunset, don't say sun, set. Or say gentle, gentle. Now say gentle, but don't say gen. And they would have to come out with tull. So that's the level of those students. Just to move up a little bit here, they're around the level 5, 6 mark, just so you have an approximate idea of what that skill is. Those students are doing this skill of say cone, but don't say k. So they're just taking that skill off, that first sound off. You'll notice that everything I'm saying right now, there's no print attached to it. So it's not say cone, here let me hold up a little sign that has C-O-N-E on it. Nothing like that. It's all completely auditory. The higher levels, so basically what we're working up to, as you can see my mouse moving all the way up to level 20 here. Level 20 is say something like crashed, like I crashed my bike outside. Say crashed, and instead of sh, say k. So crashed becomes cracked, like I cracked my tooth or something like that. So again, the teal is our pre-data. Now I'm going to overlay the data that we have from May. So this is the growth of those students, again, individual. So you can see the number of our students that, well, first of all, the amount of purple on the graph is fantastic, and we're very proud of our students. The number of students who have met, you know, say crashed, say it again, but don't say k, because that's a brain workout right there. I want you to pay particular attention to the students who started off at, say, sunset, but say it again, but don't say sun. That level D. That's a level which that's typically acquired by a typically achieving reader in pre-kindergarten, just to really understand the level of that deficit. The number of gains that those kiddos have made is staggering. I'm going to go on to my next slide here. This is some aggregate data, so just some summaries. So what you're looking at here is the total number of students that have gone up a certain number of levels. So over here, we've got 7 kids who went up under 5 levels. We have 27 students who over 5 months of instruction have gone up anywhere between 5 to 9 levels. We have 29 students who, again, over 5 months have gone up 10 to 15 levels. And then 10 students who have gone up 16 or more levels. I will also tell you that every single one of these 10 students started at level D or E. So just putting that in the back of your head to let you think on that. I'm going to give you some more information now. The next assessment that we looked at is the WADE The WADE stands for Wilson Assessment for Decoding and Encoding. And why do we use this? Well, it's directly connected to our decoding and encoding program, right? Makes sense. This is going to give us a really good sense of where those gaps are and what we need to intervene on. Just like we use the past to help us figure out exactly what instruction a student needs. Just as Rebecca was saying, that whole one size doesn't fit all. It's the exact same thing with the WADE. It gives us an very, very specific information about exactly where a student's gaps are. So we know exactly where to intervene. And the way I like to explain it to students is, well, you know, do you know what 1 + 1 is? And they'll go, yeah, it's 2. I said, if you know what 1 + 1 is, do I need to teach it to you? No. If you don't know what 1 + 1 is, should I teach it to you? Well, yeah. And we like to use that analogy with the kids as well. If you know what it is, we don't need to teach it to you. If we know where the gaps are, that's where we're going to go next. So our WADE data, again, here's the individual, and I'll give you some aggregate stuff in a minute. These are percentage scores. A full score is not 100%. So this is a little bit different than that previous, the phonological awareness data that I was giving you earlier, okay? Keep in mind, we've got students right from grades 4 through grade 8. All of them have learning disabilities, and the Wilson program is designed for students that fit this population. So when you look at this green data, or this teal data, I want you to also consider one thing. For the students who are in grades 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's taken 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 years for them to acquire this set of skills. And this, if I look at this kid right here, for example, this is a grade 6 student. So in grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe a year of kindergarten. So in 6 years, this student has been able to achieve this. And what is this? This is, what sound does this letter make, this letter S? What sound does this letter C make? What sound does this letter M make? What is ing? What does an say? It's also, how would you spell the word fox? How would you spell the word disrupt? It's going through high frequency words. It is reading nonsense words. So if I gave you a word like F-U-Z-T, what would that word be? Those sorts of things where we're really looking at all of those decoding and encoding skills that we work on in our Wilson program. So it's taken that student 5 or 6 years to get to where they are right now. So now I'm going to overlay our data from the 5 months of our instruction. And again, we started Wilson after we did a really, really hard, depending on the student, 3, 4, 5 weeks of Kilpatrick. So it's actually less than 5 months. So for this Wilson piece, our average score going up, our average increase is about 14%. I want to tell you what 14% looks like. So I'm going to tell you about a little kid, a grade 6 student that I worked with last year, not little. So here's what 14% looks like for this kid. 14% means a student went from a 15 to a 28. So it means that her awareness of vowels, she before could tell you what 2 vowel sounds were, and by the end of the year, she was at 10. Digraphs, she knew 2 of them, and that's SH, CH, TH. At the end of the year, she knew 5. Welded sounds, so AN, AM, ANG, ING, ANK, those are the welded sounds. At the end of the year, she went from 0 to 14. High frequency words, she went from 22 to 38. Reading words that were decodable, she went all the way up to 17. Spelling words, she could barely spell a 3-letter word. She went all the way up to 16. So that's what that actually looks like. You know, it's one thing for me to say, oh yeah, they went up 14%, but what does that actually mean? I'm going to show you some of the aggregate stuff here. Same as before, just groups of data and how much those kids are going up. So 8 of our kids went up just less than 5%. 8 of our kids up 5 to 9%. 25 of our students went up 10 to 14%. 14 students went up 15 to 19%. 10, not 10%, my apologies. 10 went up 20 to 24%. 7 students went up 25 to 29%. And 1 student was over 30. Just under 50% of the kids almost doubled their score. I think it's 46% of the kids almost doubled their score. And I want you to think about what I said earlier about the teal and how long it took some of them to get up to a certain level. So it may have taken them their entire school careers to reach wherever they're at. And then in 5 months, they were able to almost double that score with what we've been supporting them with. If you thought I was done with data, I'm not. I have one more piece of data to share with you, and that's some reading data. We were using targeted decodable texts. So a lot of the things that we use in classrooms are not just decodable texts. We decided we were looking specifically at decodable text. What on earth do I mean by decodable text? I don't mean words like THE, because the word the doesn't follow the rules. A word like was, WAS, doesn't follow the rules. A word like hit follows the rules. It follows the rules. So those are the texts that we began with. It connects directly to what we are doing with our Wilson encoding, the spelling, and decoding the reading programs. So the teal again is our November data. Each line is a student. And you'll see there's a lot more zeros on here. What a zero actually means for our kids is this. It means that they could not independently read a level 1 text. This is what a level 1 text is, or an example of a level 1 text. These are actually texts that we used on the kids. Tap, tap. Will is up at bat. Another one that we used is Don got on his red bike. So these are students who could not independently read that text. This is including our, like right across grade 4 through grade 8. This is our post data. I'm going to tell you the level 8 text, just for some context. The astronauts landed in a region called the Sea of Tranquility. Space scientists continue to visit and study the moon, learning about its composition, age, and rocks, and about the similarities. I didn't copy the rest of the sentence because I believe I've made my point. Now, you'll see that not everyone has gone up to 8. We weren't expecting everyone to go to 8, right? There's no magic wand. These kids have worked their butts off. We have students who have made half a level of growth with some very significant intervention. Yes, you will notice that there's 2 kiddos here that don't have any growth. Those are also more exceptional cases where we weren't able to get end of year data, and just some extra layers on their cases. But there's a lot of purple on that screen, which makes me very happy. And on that, I'm going to pass to Jason. Thank you.
Okay, Allison, you're up with me here. I do just want to explain to the group what we're going to be doing here as well. So you've seen the methodologies of our programs. You've seen some of the results after a relatively short amount of intervention time. I said earlier that we believe in authentic learning, and we want to show you a little bit of where all this research started and where this research is continuing to go. And when I say research, I'm referring to the neuroscience of reading, and in particular, what scientists have been discovering about inefficient readers, struggling readers, non-readers. Okay, so Allison, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, go again. This time, you're going to see pictures. What I want you to do is read the pictures the same way you read the words, one at a time, left to right, just like you'd be reading a text. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Lamp, wiper, cheetah, pot, de-stapler, fish slice, remote control, chest of drawers, scale, glove box.
All right. So, Allison, I've got some difficult news and some very encouraging news for you. Okay. You read the list of words in 6 seconds. You read the list of pictures in 15.6 seconds. But you should know that most people typically take at least 3 times as long to read a list of pictures, even when it matches a list of words that they just read. Okay. So if you have a look at those pictures, for anyone who, just to remind everybody, those pictures match the words that Allison read earlier. Okay. We see this huge discrepancy in her times. Next slide, please. And the thing is, that's nothing to do with Allison. That's to do with the science of reading. So scientists, as we saw earlier, have done a lot of research to figure out what strong readers do well and what inefficient readers don't do well. And one of the biggest things that they discovered is that there are some people where their brain is wired in such a way that they don't develop an orthographic memory, which means representing sounds in the brain through printed symbols. Okay, so I see letters, I string those letters together, I recognize that letter string as a piece of a word, I can put it together, establish, establish. What we've learned through all of this research is that people don't learn to read well by memorizing words. We learn to read well by representing sound through printed symbols. We use sound. What's my proof of this? Well, if you look at this ingredient list down here, I'm willing to bet that unless you took chemistry in university, you've probably never seen these words before, but even as I talk, you're probably figuring them out in your brain and getting pretty close to what they actually say. Okay, so what this is showing you is that you are drawing on your knowledge of sound strings, letter strings, and eventually into word strings, isobutane, isopropyl myristate. Don't ask me to do the third one. And stearoalconium hectorite. I did actually do the third one in a training that we did earlier. I just can't remember at the moment. But what we really need to focus on here is that this is the research that sort of underlies a lot of the work that we do with students. Next slide, please. Okay, so we read sequences of letters that match sounds. Here's another example. You can see what says Alberti. You can see what says fidgety, different letter shape, different letter size. Doesn't matter. There's a good chance your brain is reading them just as fast, regardless of the font type. One more slide, please. So when we look at the brains of strong readers and we see that they're using sound and letter strings, that drives our instruction. And that is the piece that so many of our students with learning disabilities are missing. Now, the good news is that can be taught. And if you listened to the summary of Martine's data there, one of the things she talked about is that we never assess students using picture books. We use decodable text, which means strictly print. And one of the things that that does for us is it allows us to zero in on teaching that orthographic association, that letters represent sounds, and I can string them together and I can remember sound. Some students are wired in such a way that that skill is not turned on just yet. The Wilson reading system and the Kilpatrick phonological awareness system are two great examples of programs that turn on those skills. Allison kindly showed us what that deficit looks like in real life. Again, 15, 16 seconds for pictures, 6 seconds for words. That is the shift that we have been building into the students we're working with. To give you an idea of what that change actually looks like in real life and how it affects people in real life, I'm going to turn it over to Darren, who is going to give us a little more insight there.
Thank you, Jason. That was awesome. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back just to get a little more personal and focus on an individual student and what that means to them. So this is a grade 6 student. His pseudonym is Spencer, but he wanted me to use his pseudonym Dragon Lord. So when you hear me say Spencer, in case he's listening, just substitute Dragon Lord so I don't get into trouble. All right, so who is Spencer? Spencer's a kid. He loves video games, being social, playing sports. He's very well-rounded. He's very funny, he's thoughtful, and he's very self-aware. He has very high metacognitive skills, and he's very aware of his strengths and his needs. He has good learning skills and a very positive growth mindset. This kid's really curious, and he wants to learn. The interesting thing about Spencer is that he wants to get into business. He's always talking about different business plans. He's got his own lemonade stand, and he's even talking about how he could monetize the Wilson program, the reading program that we're doing. And he's got very involved and supportive parents. Next, please. Once we scratch the surface and dig a little deeper, we see that there was an early diagnosis of a language impairment and learning disability, reading, writing, and math. Severely delayed articulation skills. And this is a student who's had significant school, board, and home-based supports throughout his academic career. So back in November, so here's his reading snapshot. And again, using all the assessments that Martine has talked about and Rebecca. He was unable to read any words on that grade 1 level text that we've talked about. He only knew a few of his consonant sounds. He didn't know any of his vowel sounds consistently. And he couldn't read even simple words like job or bat, let alone spell them. And he couldn't actually identify syllables or sounds in words. So again, he was at that lower level we've talked about. I'm going to get Martine to play in Spencer's own voice.
When I was younger, I always wondered how other people were able to read. When I was younger, I always thought they had like a little narrator in their head.
And I thought that was really powerful because that came out unprompted one day when I was talking to him, and he just asked me, he goes, how come I don't have a voice in my head? And I asked him to explain, and that's what came out. And it was just, to me, very powerful. And then after 5 months, well, we'll take a look at where he started off, Martine. So this first slide here, I've done it as a percentage out of 100. So he was scored 15% on our past. And then again, that's the phonemic awareness. And linking back to what Jason was talking about in the sounds, this is a student who had early deficits in his speech and language. He really struggled at being able to articulate sounds, reproduce sounds, and break apart sounds. So he was really at the level of say triangle, say it again, but don't say try. Okay, and angle, and even articulating those clearly. We spent a lot of time on this. So for him, this was really sort of his, the hill that he had to climb. And so now he's actually scored 90%. So he's actually now at that highest level that Martine talked about earlier. So something like say the word rent, say it again, but instead of say correct. Very difficult, but he's able to do that. And he's actually able to break it apart. And especially those initial blends and final blends like tra, which he had a hard time with. And as we'll see next on the Wade, which is the decoding and encoding, at the start of our program, I guess in November, he got 4%. He really only knew some of his, I think he knew 11 of his consonant sounds. He didn't know any of his vowel sounds consistently. Always mixing them up and having a hard time with them. So then next, at the end, we can see he's moved up to 16% now. And again, what that represents, and I don't think the numbers do it justice, is he now has those core skills. So up until grade 6, he'd acquired, I think, 11 consonant sounds, despite a lot of hard work. Now, after 5 months working with us, with the intervention, he's got all of his consonant sounds. He's got 10 vowel sounds like a, e, those. And he's able, not only that, but he's able to put them together and be able to decode words and put it all together. So one of the things that's really powerful too, he's not only doing what I taught him. He's actually applying it now to things I haven't taught him, to different syllable types that we haven't taught yet. So I know he's really internalized it. So I think he's going to actually move up much quicker now that he's got those core skills. All right, next. And here's his leveled reading text. And as you can see, he was one of those students that wasn't able to access the text at all, and he was able to read none of the words. And Martine's already given you an example. And then at the end of our intervention, he scored 86% on it. So he was doing quite well on that. So his reading has come much higher. Now we're going to share his mom's voice.
My son has gone from having large deficits to making very large gains in a short period of time. His confidence level has increased as he has been taught a different way to read, which works for him. While all of his teachers and certs have had a major positive impact in his learning, nothing has proven as successful as the reading intervention offered this year.
And then again, back to Spencer's voice. So when we asked, what do you think of this program?
This program is actually really good. It's really helping me to read a lot. If I had this program when I was little, I think I would be a lot more better at reading at this stage.
Right, moving on to the next one. And one of the things we'd like to do is to really focus on the social emotional aspect of not being able to read. So we actually did ask other students before our intervention, how does reading make you feel? And I'm just going to show you these slides. I'm not going to read them to you. I'll let you ponder them on your own. Martine. And I think this one says a lot. The student put a lot of effort and emotion into writing that, as you can see. Then, of course, we talked to these same students. After we did the reading intervention, we asked the same question: how does reading make you feel? I really like the one that says, I'd rather work on my reading than play Fortnite. I think that says a lot. So as you think about the social emotional impact of reading on these students, I'm going to pass it on to Sandra to talk about our next steps.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Darren. My name is Sandra Hall. I'm this year's IPL and Structured Learning Lead. I have the very large shoes to fill of taking over from Sherry Rain. So where do we go from here? So looking at this school year, we're so happy that Special Education Services received approval to hire an additional itinerant resource teacher for the 2021-22 school year, Sandy Bayless. Our goal this year is to continue to support the students who were part of the structured reading program last school year, wherever their placement may be for this school year. So some are remaining in the self-contained learning disabilities class, and others have moved on to a resource support regular classroom placement. We're looking forward to expanding the program to include primary students, which is the Ministry of Education's recommendation from the early reading strategy. We will follow the recommendations from the Right to Read Human Rights Tribunal. We're still waiting for that report to be shared with the public in advance of doing that. We will continue to offer professional development opportunities to our staff. We have been lucky to be able to purchase additional resources to continue to support the implementation of the structured reading program. And finally, the IRTs and the IPL continue to participate in further training such as the Wilson Reading Program, LIPS, Structured Literacy Instruction, and Becoming a Literacy Leader webinar. So that's what we're looking forward to for this upcoming school year and hopefully more years to come. So thank you. And now I'm going to pass it back to Jason, where he's going to let you know some questions that we'd like you to ponder.
Yeah, thank you. So just a few thinking points and a few talking points here, and we welcome any questions from this list. So from everything you've heard in our presentation, what do you consider a strength of the structured reading program? We are always looking for areas to improve, gaps in our knowledge. So please feel free to offer any suggestions for improvement if you have them, and any other questions you might have. So at this time, I think we'll set the floor up and leave it up here. And I see we have a hand up already. Rebecca, go ahead.
I think questions go through the chair, Jason.
Oh, sorry.
Am I incorrect? Questions go through the chair?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, pardon me. It's my first time.
Okay, that's fine. Rebecca, Rebecca, would you like to ask your question? Yeah.
Yeah, Rebecca Huron from Halton Down Syndrome Association. 2 questions. One related to the first, I think, or comment, I guess. I think the biggest strength for me is your comment about the growth that a student in grade 6 showed, or the lack of growth that they showed over 5 or 6 years of education versus 5 months. It's staggering. Like it's incredible. And I think that again leads to that social emotional piece. These students have worked so hard for so long to see such little growth, to see such a huge gain all of a sudden must just be fantastic for them. So congratulations, they're staggering results. And my question being, is this program going to be available for students that are not contained in some of our programs if they meet the qualifications, but being in the mainstream system?
Sean, are you there to be able to field this question?
Yeah, I'm just clicking on my unmute. So thank you for that question. Certainly our goal is to expand the program where we can. We're still learning how to best do that. It's part of gathering the data as we have to see what works, what format. Early on in the presentation, you heard about the hybrid model with the virtual and the in-person. That's allowing us to reach more students. So the answer in a simple form is yes, we're looking at expanding. The question really is, how are we going to do that? What's the best format? And that's what we're going to be using this year with the IRTs, with Sandra, with Colette and the team, and looking at what we can do. But we're seeing the results, and so we want to see how we can impact further across the system.
Great, thank you. And as the chair, I'm going to take an opportunity to ask a question or make some comments as well. As the ED of the Learning Disabilities Association, I must say I'm incredibly impressed and thankful for your efforts in this program. It's kind of like everything we dream of in one package. So I'm really, really excited about the results that you're seeing. It's similar to results that we see in some of our programs. Again, they're based on the same models, so that would be expected. I just had a couple of questions. So is this offered as one-on-one support, or is it in small groups? And then how long at a time are you working with each individual student? So, I mean, I know they're in a self-contained classroom, but is this an extensive remediation, or is it, an hour a day and then they do something else? So how is it actually implemented in the classroom?
Rebecca?
Thanks. Well, if you go back to that slide where one size fits all, every student was different. So in some cases, we did work one-on-one. In a lot of cases, actually, that we did work one-on-one with the students. In some cases, we were able to group students. And the other piece to each student requiring different instruction was the length of time that they could manage. So some students, based on their learning profiles, could manage sessions that were 15 to 20 minutes long. Other students could manage 45 minutes. And so that's where the one size fits all piece is really key, because we took the students' lead. So whatever they could manage, we would do. We would maybe push a little bit further if we could, but we also got to know them well enough to know when to push and when not to push. So the long and short of it is, it varied across with every single student. But I would say probably the average length of lessons would maybe have been about 25 minutes. But again, that varied greatly.
And is that daily?
Yes.
For 5 months?
Yes. Yes, daily.
Great. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much.
I'd like to also add on to that, because it touches on Rebecca's earlier question as well. The team mentioned that we're waiting on the report from the tribunal. And as you know, you probably know there are some programs out there that are very prescriptive. 40 minutes every day, lesson 1 through X. We deliberately chose a program that allowed us to be more responsive to the individual students that may come into our board at a later date, students who aren't able to attend every day for a number of reasons. We chose something that we can adapt to each student's needs. And they don't necessarily need to be in the same classroom. We have, because of the virtual model, we were able to cluster students based on their profiles. So I think what the team has created is very responsive to our students, and our intent right now, based on what we've seen, is to continue with that. But again, we need to wait to see what the ministry is going to direct us to do, and that will impact our next steps as well.
Colette, sorry, you have a question or comment?
Thank you. Just a couple of comments. I wanted to experience this presentation with all of you. So this is also my first time hearing and seeing this data. And I don't know how the presenters got through it without crying, because it's just truly, truly incredible. And to remind ourselves that this has also all occurred within a pandemic, where our schools have never changed so much, been so challenging to just complete our usual everyday tasks, closures. And so for this group to learn a whole new approach to teaching reading, and then to deliver that to some of our students with really significant learning needs, to go through closures and have to figure out how do we deliver this program virtually. And I guess that's the gift too, because we probably would never have considered bringing kids together virtually across our schools if we hadn't been going through learning at home and in a pandemic. So it's remarkable simply what has been achieved, but it's even more remarkable that this was achieved in a pandemic, in one of the most difficult years for teachers and for students that we've ever experienced. So my deepest appreciation and my my hat goes off to you folks for what you've accomplished and what you've given to our students. It's pretty amazing. I want to comment on, I think it was Rebecca who asked about, what does this look like beyond the self-contained classroom? And, as I'm listening to this, some of these, instructional strategies and how we teach reading in our early years, it reminds me of a work that we're just now undertaking in early literacy, and we'll be sharing more information about this project as it evolves over the course of this school year. But we are partnering with our school programs department on an early literacy strategy to really get us to examine how do we teach reading and how do we teach phonemic awareness and phonological awareness in kindergarten to grade 3, and a tiered intervention support for students who aren't hitting those milestones where we would expect, and a differentiated approach to interventions. So this work with this group, while they're focused on students with a learning disability in reading. We are also using this knowledge to influence another program and another initiative to get at more students and to hopefully have an even earlier intervention. Because while it's really exciting to hear some of the stories about these students after, 6, 7, 8 years of schooling, attaining these goals, I'm sure it's gone through all of our minds, like if only we had have gotten to them in kindergarten, in grade 1 and grade 2. And so that's the work that we're also looking at this year.
Great, thank you very much, Colette. And as I said, I mean, again, it's truly is amazing work, and I guess you're very, very proud of the fact that you're leading a lot of this work that needs to be done across the province and the country. So thank you very much to all the staff. Does anybody have any questions? Any other questions for the team? Okay. Oh, yeah, Sean.
Sorry, Rebecca posted in the notes, any idea when that ministry report is being released? I haven't heard anything. It's already been delayed due to COVID. I was going to ask Sherry Rain if she has any special insights, as she's always seems to know way more than any other person, if she's still here.
I don't think she's still here.
No, I'm still here. Sorry, hang on a sec. Let me just turn off my all candidates meeting. Hold on. Sorry, I'm on 2 meetings at the same time tonight. Yeah.
Sorry, Sherry.
Yes, I know the question. I'm trying to get politically correct. It has been the release of the document, from what I understand through my grapevine, is that that has been postponed again. I'm not counting on it.
So we don't have an answer at this point.
That's a good way of putting it. We don't have an answer at this point. I'm not counting on it for any time soon. I'd be surprised if it came out anytime soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, great. Well, thank you again for coming and presenting this great work. Really do appreciate it, the time and effort, obviously, that you've put in, and the truly life-changing service that you're delivering to these students. So thank you very much on behalf of SEAC. With that said, we will move on to our next point in the agenda, which is item 2.2. And this is really comes out of the instructions from the Government of Ontario that school board committee meetings may now take place either in person, virtually, or in a hybrid format. And in discussing this, we've realized that with the size of our meeting room at HDSB, we would be unable to have the whole group of us in person, but there is still the possibility of us offering either our meetings at SEAC in a virtual model or moving to a hybrid model. And so we just wanted to reach out and have a discussion about whether there were any specific models that people wanted to follow. And I just wondered if, Colette, if there's any more information that you might be aware of from public health or HDSB policies that might impact our decision making on the best route forward.
Yeah, so certainly our Board of Trustees are operating board meetings in a hybrid format. So some of the trustees are in the boardroom and some are connecting through a Google Meet. So it is possible. We do have the technology to do that. For SEAC to come together, we would be required to comply with the public health parameters around the COVID protocols that we all know very well at this point in terms of distancing, masking, doing a screening, etc. In addition to that, the Minister of Education has stipulated a vaccine attestation mandate. So it would require a vaccine attestation or COVID testing prior to attending meetings if you opt for the in-person model. So, so those are really the only pieces that would impact the group if we want to go to a hybrid model and have some folks in the boardroom, or if we want to continue with a model where it would be fully virtual.
So with that background information, we've obviously been working virtually for quite a few months now. But would anybody like to add their points and their viewpoint as to whether they would prefer to be in person, hybrid, so some people in person and some of us online, or that whether we all remain completely online? Is there anybody who would like to start the conversation? Okay, Lou, you're on mute, I think.
Yeah. At this time, at least for the next few months, I think I would like to move a motion that we continue to meet virtually. I'm not sure how others feel, but perhaps if somebody could second this motion.
Does it before we move to that? Does anybody have any opposing views? Is there anybody who feels strongly that they would like to be in the board location, or it would in any way improve things? Just to make sure we've heard any alternate views. Okay. Yeah, Diane.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm just wondering if anybody feels that we're not achieving anything or we're not getting our thoughts out well enough when we meet virtually. Are we better at doing that when we're face to face?
Okay.
If we're achieving it virtually, then I think probably we're all right carrying on. Another option would be that the reps would be there in person and the alternates could be virtual.
Yep, that's a potential solution. So one of the people, we've got a comment here that the more comfortable virtual until the new year. It's certainly something we can review at intervals. It doesn't have to. Virtual helps with childcare. Yeah, mine are in the other room too. One of the discussions we did have was whether we actually had more attendance in a virtual environment because people could participate and have other things going on at the same time and less transfer. I think the question is, as Diane raised, do we think we're being effective and covering the points that as SEAC we need to address while we're in a virtual format? So does anybody have any concerns that we're not able to do that in an online format? Perhaps I can ask the trustees, what was the reasoning for the trustees to decide to go virtual? Hybrid you went, I think.
Hi, everyone. It's Tracy here. And we went hybrid to recognize that staff and students were back in school buildings and we're very much moving towards face-to-face. And so it is an option, though. For the first meeting we had in September, there were 3 trustees at JWS and the rest were online as we are today. And it looks, the technology has moved forward in the last year, of course, and If you're online and you're speaking, you're projected onto that big wall at the front of the room, so people in the room can see you as well as online. So it recognizes many different life scenarios of trustees. And even when we're full-time face-to-face, we still have some people that are online due to travel or health or whatever the case may be.
Right. Okay, does anybody want to add any additional comments? I'm not hearing any overwhelming desire that we all get back to JWS. Unless I'm mistaken, Tracy, yeah.
I would just be remiss if I didn't say that, and I think we're longing also to see each other in person sometimes.
Yes.
Recognizing that we do our business differently than, not necessarily more or less effective, but differently when you can be that way. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, a motion has been put, but Lucille has raised a motion as to we go virtual. Diane made us another suggestion that the reps go in. Obviously, all the reps would have to have either double vaccinations or be doing the COVID screening of the COVID rapid testing, I presume. So of those two options, is there anybody who particularly feels one way or the other? Lisa.
Hi there. The only comment that I'd like to make is I just find that it's a little bit more engaging when we're in person. I don't know. My personal opinion is I'd like to meet, for anybody that's comfortable with that.
Okay. Well, I mean, as I said, obviously there is the option that we can do hybrid if people would like to be present. I mean, some of us, are going back to work and doing things, and the members of SEAC who don't wish to be in the facility obviously don't have to be. It's obviously the trustees are telling us it's able to be managed. So let's go. Why don't we put forward then the motion that we do a hybrid first, and then if that doesn't pass, then we will look at obviously the solution is to be virtual. So who would like to be offered the opportunity to be hybrid? So to go in if they wish to. And to have the remainder of people who didn't want to be there online. So if we motion perhaps for the flexibility to make that choice for each meeting, that is a way of, I guess, making sure that people who wish to be there can do that, and people who don't can continue working virtually. So are people happy if we put forward a motion that we go hybrid? Would anybody second that? Diane?
I'll second that.
So how many votes do we have for a hybrid model? Okay, I'm going to try and count hands. So I've got... So we've got Lisa, Diane, Rebecca, so we've got 3, Heather, 2 more, so we've got just opening the queue so I can see. If you could all put your hands up in the chat, I think it would be easier for me to count them. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, what am I can't do that. 6. So there's 7 has 6 hands up, and then we have and Heather, you've got your hand up, so that's 8. 7 hands up. Okay, just trying to keep my numbers straight. And then let's put forward the vote for who would like to do this virtually. Let's put my hand down and let's do a virtual vote. Okay, and again, if we can do that on the chat. So I'm putting my hand down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have.
Sorry, I don't have access to my chat. It's Sophia.
Okay, so
My hand's up.
your hands up. So you're 1, 2, 3, 6. So okay, we have a split vote. I would suggest in that case that as a compromise for our next meeting, people who want to go in, and we see if it works. If it doesn't work, then we come back to virtual. Does that sound like a reasonable plan? Anybody got any concerns with that? Yeah, there's a I'm sorry, I've lost your name, but HSCC admin. You have your hand up. Who's that? Oh. Okay, any hands up? So we have one raised hand, HSCC admin. Nope. Okay. All right. So it's difficult when we have a split decision, but I guess a compromise will be that those who wish to go in next time. Okay, I've got the hand up again. Sorry, it's me. Candice, yes. Are you okay? Do you want to add something? Okay. You want to put something in the chat?
Doesn't that black thing get a vote?
The cat, yeah.
The black thing that went flying through get a vote?
Okay, you're okay with hybrid. So my suggestion is then, as it's a fairly split, that the people who wish to be in present next month go in, and the people who wish to remain virtual go virtual. Colette, is that okay? And you want to speak?
So yeah, absolutely, we can certainly try the hybrid model. We'll need to confirm with human resources around the process for collecting attestation data. That's a confidential process for a collection of that data, as well as getting folks testing kits prior to entering for anyone who is not vaccinated or is unable to get vaccinated. So we'll say tentatively the next meeting will be hybrid, but if HR cannot meet those timelines, then we may need to consider it, reconsider it for November.
Yep, okay. All right, well, thank you very much, everybody. These are, as we said, changing times, and we're hopefully on the cusp towards moving to more normal times, and this is maybe the start of that. Okay, so it is 8:25, and just keeping moving. So our next item, item 2.3, is a brief discussion on some SEAC housekeeping matters. It's come to our attention and discussion that SEAC has the option to elect a new chair or vice chair at regular intervals that it deems appropriate. Last year, we elected these roles in December to align with the calendar year, but we do have the alternative to elect those roles in alignment with the school year. So that would be now. So just wanted to know if anybody had any preference as to when they think the election or a voting on chair and vice chair would be most appropriate, if they feel that would be better in line with the school year, or wish to carry on with what is already in place, which is the calendar year. Any comments? Diane.
I think what we're doing now aligns with municipal elections.
Okay. So the trustees?
So when the municipal elections happen, they're what in, help me, Tracy or Joanna, in October, November, to be starting in January, and you're elected for 4 years. And I think that's what we've been in line with.
Okay, great. Thank you, Diane. Does anybody have any need or desire to change that? We'll just stay as we are with January election. But we just wanted to raise it in case anybody felt it was more appropriate to be in a line with the school year. Okay, I'm not seeing any real comments on changing that. So we will continue as we have done and have those elections in the end of the year. Secondly, I'd just like to ask our trustees on SEAC if they're aware of any committees that require or would benefit from SEAC input. We currently have members on our Parent Involvement Committee, the Accessibility Coordinating Committee, and the Equity and Inclusive Education Advisory Steering Committee. But we just wondered if there was anything else there where we should have representation or that would benefit from representation. Bearing in mind that I think the trustees sit, while they may be trustees of SEAC, on SEAC, they're not necessarily counted as a SEAC representative. I think that is the case. I'm not sure.
So trustees are appointed to
the committees.
SEAC, and it's a 4-year appointment along the timelines that Diane was mentioning when the election first takes place. So it's 2018 to 2022. Okay. And then trustees made the decision, there's 2 members and 2 alternates, and we switched halfway through. Yep. And in terms of other groups that could benefit from SEAC participation, I'm sure there's many. Everybody could benefit from your wisdom. So maybe I can just, or Heather and I can just take that back and
that would be great.
The committees that trustees sit on are staff-related committees. Yep. So I guess partially the question is for Colette and the senior team as well, if there are any staff-led committees.
Yeah. So what we will do then is we'll leave that in your hands to perhaps come back at the next meeting. And at the next meeting as well, we will raise whether there are people on those committees that we currently have, our standing committees that I mentioned, who would like a change, whether there are other people who would like to have some involvement with those committees, and we can take a look who's representing SEAC there. But again, if we had a full range of all the different committees that would benefit, that would be probably most appropriate. And we can get that information out, hopefully in the agenda, so that people have an understanding of what is available and what time commitments might be before they are asked to put their name forward at the next SEAC. Diane.
I'm sorry, my hand is up. I forgot to take it back down.
Oh, okay. All right. I will let you off.
There.
Okay. So does anybody else have any more questions about committees and general housekeeping at SEAC? I'm trying to get my cat to stop lying over my keyboard. Okay, so with that, we have now moved on to item 3, which is SEAC discussion and question period. So if anybody has any specific questions or topics they would like to raise, could you please indicate so in the chat box or put your hand up for questions? Well, I'm not seeing any at the moment, Colette. So perhaps we then move on to the superintendent's report and reports from other groups. So we'll start with item 4.0, communications to SEAC, item 4.1, the superintendent's report. So Colette has already provided you with a written report and give us a brief summary. And if we have any questions, please, again, put your hand up or put them in the chat.
Everyone's so quiet tonight. I think we're just getting back into the groove of things. But I would say that the school year is off to a great start. I think that with such a long absence for many of our staff and students in our schools, in our physical schools, that people were more happier than ever to get back into the buildings, to get back into in-person connections, and get back to learning. So, as with any year, there's the usual startup challenges. As always, we have a bus driver shortage, and we have lots of people registering that we weren't anticipating coming into Halton, and schools are managing all of those issues as they come, and really, to be quite honest, quite successfully. Not to mention, of course, all of the COVID-related protocols that come with this year. Our usual September reorganization for elementary, we decided to push back that reorg date. It's usually about September 25th, so that we're compliant with ministry class size caps and averages. And in order to really minimize the amount of disruption to school organizations this year, we made a board decision to make that reorganization date in October 12th, I believe the date is, which is outside of the ministry parameters, but it certainly gives more of an opportunity for parents to switch models if their circumstances have changed or their level of comfort in person learning, or whether they've decided that they're more comfortable with in-person learning. We can make that switch early in the year and only disrupt our classes once rather than a few times as we had to last year. For our secondary students, the model switch opportunity comes after the completion of first semester, because it's not very easy for students to move with their course schedule in mid-semester. So that switch opportunity comes between semester 1 and semester 2 in February. So to kick off our year, I'm really pleased that our special education staff and our student well-being staff have had a really strong presence in our schools. We are pleased that the COVID protocols are permitting them to be in more than one school in a day and to provide small group support as well as in-classroom support. And some of those pieces were restricted last year. So a strong presence in our schools, which is a great benefit to both our staff and our students. Our classroom teachers and other support staff are doing those diagnostic assessments, much like you heard with our structured reading teachers, getting to know their students, getting to know their learning profile, and then we'll determine the appropriate strategies for support and intervention once they develop those profiles. As I also mentioned in that presentation, that our department and school programs is collaborating on an early literacy project where we're looking at 3 tiers of intervention, prevention and intervention. And we're really excited about this work. We've committed a speech and language pathologist for this work to really target those early literacy skills, build the capacity of our classroom teachers, our CERTs, and then also looking at how do we support in that tier 3 and who provides that support. So we have some exciting work that is ahead of us with early literacy for sure. As Sean said, we added to the complement of our IRTs, those delivering the structured reading program, and looking at expanding that support to students in kindergarten through to grade 3, in addition to our self-contained placements, which are grades 4 through 8. School Programs is also collaborating with us on an initiative to support mathematics with an initial focus on supporting all learners within a de-streamed classroom. And then we'll be expanding that beyond the grade 9 de-streamed math program, and how do we support learners across the grades 7 to 10. And the school programs department has 3 math IRTs to support this work. That's an additional complement to that department. A significant focus for schools this year, more so than the typical year, is of course the mental health and well-being of our students. And all staff participated in professional development in the first 2 PD days I guess that's 2 weeks ago now. And how to support students who are returning to a school, the mental health challenges that they may be presenting with, as well as building some skills around social emotional learning, or SEL, which you're going to start to hear probably a lot more of as this is a part of the curriculum now. I'm not going to go too much into the work of student well-being, because they are going to join us next month and share an overview of the mental health strategy and supports that are in place for students. So I won't steal their thunder. We know that also a full return to school life includes co-curricular activities and athletics, that this is a key element of student well-being. And so we're really happy to see the return of those in both elementary and secondary schools, and the protocols to ensure that those are safe opportunities for students are co-developed with our public health partners. With regards to learning, summer learning and support, we had a very busy summer. In addition to the offerings that were provided for students through the school programs department, we in particular hosted learning sessions for a wide range of students with special education needs. And I think I shared all of those different opportunities with you in May or June last year. We supported approximately 1,200 students across those program offerings. We did have more students initially registered, but as summer got underway and activities and fun began for families, we did see a decline in interest in our virtual learning programs. But we did serve 1,200 students approximately. The Student Wellbeing Department also provided supports for students. They served over 500 students throughout the summer in their small group offerings. And they also supported students with one-to-one support and connected them also to other community agency supports. So they were also very busy. They had over 1,000 requests for support and were able to respond to all of those needs in a variety of formats. And again, they'll speak to that a little bit more when we see them next month. And finally, our speech and language pathologists and our psychoeducational consultants conducted additional assessments over the summer, as well as for our SLPs provided continued support for students that they have on their caseload throughout the summer. For our return to school, we also spent the last 2 weeks of August hosting return to school transitions. So schools were able to identify the students that had significant special education needs who would benefit from either an in-person or a virtual transition meeting, and that could involve parents, the student, the teacher or educational assistant, or CERT. It was really quite open in terms of format, what would meet the needs of the student and the school. So we were quite fortunate to have the ministry funding for that again this year. And just 2 little reminders, or not a reminder, but we did speak in one of our last meetings about new SEAC member training. And so I'm proposing Tuesday, September 20th. I figure Tuesday evenings are probably the best evening for folks, seeing as you've already got this on your calendar. So this would be for any new members to SEAC who have joined since the last training that was provided, which I believe was 2019, I'm gonna guess. And for anyone who can't make it, it will be a recorded session, and we'll share the recording. So don't worry if you can't make it. And then if anyone joins subsequent to that training, then the video recording would be a good source as a training tool. And then finally, the ministry consultation. They're hosting a consultation process for the recommendations for kindergarten to grade 12 education accessibility standards. It's a collection of comprehensive collection of recommendations for the education sector on how to ensure that the accessibility is there for students with special education needs. They did extend the deadline for this feedback. So initially, I think it was to be September 2nd, and it is now extended to the 30th. So if you would like to provide feedback on those recommendations, you can click on the link that I've put into the report. And I'm happy to take any questions.
I think I've got my hand up, so I'll ask a question. So just a couple of things. Obviously, the psychologists did a number of work very hard and got a lot of psychological assessments done. What would you say is the timeline now for a student? I mean, I can't imagine they've cleared anywhere near the backlog. So what is there a timeline, a wait list time that we can tell our members of what kind of timeline they're looking at in the school system?
That's a great question, Allison. And if you don't mind, I'll come back next month with that answer. We are just in the process of clearing those wait lists and removing the students who were done over the summer.
Great.
And so once we have the updated lists, I can give you a better answer to that question.
All right, brilliant. Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? Yes, Rebecca.
Is the new member training going to be virtual on the 28th? Yes.
Yes, for sure. It will be virtual, and that way, like I say, I can record the whole Google Meet, and then I can serve others too.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Lorna will send out an invite so that you have the Google Meet link as well.
So any other questions for Colette at this time? No? Okay. So we now have the association report. So if there's anybody who would like to provide a report on the work that their association is doing, please feel free to put your hand up, and we'll do that now. Okay, I think I'm the only one with my hand up. I'm just checking here. Okay, so it is just a couple of things, or a few things that we would like to say. So the Learning Disabilities Association of Halton Hamilton is about to start its fall programming. We do have a Reading Rocks program we're running for students from grade 6 to grade 12 who are struggling with early literacy. We have 80 volunteers that are working with students under the guidance of facilitators, one-on-one, twice a week for 8 weeks. And so there are spaces. If students are referred by their CERT or principals, that programming is reduced from $300 for the session down to $50. So really is a great support there for students who need that. We also have the same kind of program running for Mastering Mathematics. That's a 10-week program twice a week in small groups working on multisensory math from grade 1 to grade 10. We're also running social skills classes, particularly for students with learning disabilities. So again, getting together with other like-minded peers. We even run Friendship Club online where young students can get together and just meet and chat. Finally, it is LD Awareness Month in October, and just to give everybody a heads up, we will be running a stress management program or a stress management workshop. I think it's particularly designed for parents and how to help them with their stress management, run by Strong Minds, Strong Kids, part of Psychology Canada. And we're also running a parent advocacy and IEP workshop to help parents understand how to work collaboratively with the school board and what should be in the IEP and how to be a support and strong advocate for their child. So again, this information will be coming out, but just wanted to give everybody here at SEAC a bit of a heads up. Diane.
Thank you, Alison. I just wanted to confirm or to clarify that the Reading Rocks program is for ages 6 to 12.
Yes, that is right. Ages 6 to 12, and it will be virtual. We had hoped to run an in-person program, but with volunteers, right now it's online. Just to clarify. Any other association reports at this time? Okay, so moving on, we have the trustees report.
Thank you so much. Tracy and I will share this report. We welcome everyone to the 2021-2022 school year and extend a special welcome to our new director, Director Ennis, and Superintendents Dean Barnes, Claire Proto, and Eamon Fahal, who joined the HDSB leadership team, and all the new staff, families, and students. Have you been inspired? The Inspire Award is given to an individual or group that is formally or informally associated with the Halton District School Board who support our students and their achievements through exemplary, caring initiative, in innovation, and creativity. It's an award that trustees are extremely proud to hand out monthly. The reason I was popping in and out of the meeting earlier this evening was because I was invited to the brand new Elsie McGill Secondary School Parent Evening. So I had to say a few words on behalf of the trustees. It's opened for grade 9. Right now it's at the old EC Drury site. And the construction isn't finished. Hopefully we'll be in early 2022. And the students and staff are settling in well. The construction of Milton number 11 Elementary is coming along. However, like the high school, COVID-19 has made getting materials and labor challenging. So it's plugging along, but we're not quite there yet. And now I'll pass it over to Trustee L. Harrison.
Hello, thanks very much. So I have a few additional points to add to what Heather was saying. Firstly, I wanted to let you know that back in June, trustees presented a report outlining ideas to reimagine forward. And that is how can we harness the opportunity for positive, transformative change in public education broadly and in HDSB. And the report contained a Reimagine Forward declaration that will be launching shortly. And what the declaration is really is trustees' attempt to send a clear signal to students, staff, families, associations, all supporters, to encourage speeding up the process of positive and transformative change. And it's an invitation for everybody to be part of this change through actions, large and small, individual and collective. And certainly yourselves through associations are very much at the forefront and undertaking these types of activities already. So the declaration was created as a marker of our intentions and hopes. There's a link to it in the report for SEAC that you'll see shortly. Please check it out, think about it, adapt it, sign it, share it, act on it. You can share your stories on social media, and OPSPA, which is the Ontario Public School Boards Association, they have a Post Your Story resource called Above and Beyond, where people from around the province are posting stories where the education system has gone above and beyond. So we really want to also connect in and support their efforts in that. And a second way that We'd like to support OPSPA, again, the Ontario Public School Board Association, is by encouraging yourselves, your members, families, to participate in an online survey that they've set up. The deadline is November 30th, so it's a ways in the future, and we'll include the link in the minutes. And that will inform their advocacy for the 2021-2022 school year. And that's advocacy to the provincial government. And OPSPA has been, by and large, very effective with their advocacy actions. And certainly they build their key messages and points collaboratively with school board trustees and staff. So this is an extension of that collaboration. And then lastly, I just want to note that we had our first trustee meeting September 1st. It was a hybrid meeting, as Allison mentioned. And that meeting was focused largely on back to school plans. And Colette gave a great overview of what has happened now. And a motion was unanimously supported by trustees to write a letter to the minister regarding adding COVID vaccine to the list of required vaccinations. And that's certainly something that has also been done by OPSPA and a number of other school boards around the province. So we added our voice to that initiative. And Heather and I and Joanna would be happy to take any questions you may have, either about our report or about other trustee-related things.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for our trustees this time? Again, it's very quiet. I think everybody is very tired after the first week of school. So with that being said, this time then we will move on for any committee reports. I know it's very early in the year, but just going to ask if there's any updates from the Parent Involvement Committee. And the other next one is the Accessibility Coordinating Committee and the Equity and Inclusive Education Advisory Steering Committee. Do you have any updates? Diane. Diane?
Sorry, forgot to unmute myself. I'm talking away to myself here. From the Equity and Inclusive Education, there is nothing to date, but there will be probably next meeting.
Great, thank you. And Lucille?
Yes, the same. We have not met, but we are planning to meet this month. So there will be an update for the next meeting.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Accessibility Committee.
Great. So just again to mention, we will be finding out if there are additional committees and trying to see, if there are people who wish to stand on any of these committees next time. But at this point in time, thank you to the committee reps for their updates. Just before we head on to our to closing out the meeting, there's just a couple of points. Item 5.0, is there anything that anybody would like added onto the next agenda? As Colette mentioned, we are looking to have a mental health report coming, so hear about the work of that new department, so that will be great. So anything else that anybody would really like to hear? I know we're going to be having some association reports and a couple of speakers, but anything else that we need to bring to the agendas? Okay, all right, great. So with that, we're coming to the end of our meeting. I just wanted to take this very brief moment to welcome our new Director of Education, Mr. Curtis Ennis, who has taken on the new role. Very excited to see what gets done under his leadership, and excited to hear from him when he's able to join us. I'm sure he's very, very busy running a whole new school system in the middle of a pandemic. So we will get to meet him whenever that is possible. Until then, Colette, if you could pass on our best wishes from the whole SEAC committee. I'm sure that I speak for everyone in wishing him and the new superintendents and new staff members throughout the system all the best as they start this new school year. So with that being said, we have now completed our agenda, and it is time to adjourn our meeting at 8:30.